right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with more of the Nancy Guthrie case. Now, Mrs. Kelly just went ahead and released a video of Mrs. Nancy Guthrie with the watch and possibly the, the, the cane that was used in the holster. Now, let's check this video out. My mom's not going to be here because she's busy right now. If she was, I'd be having her take screenshots of this, but she is busy right now. She's got chores and stuff she's doing. I mean, she don't like these cases. All right, I'm going to show you something here of the that Mrs. Megan Kelly just released. Mrs. Kelly, I hope you don't mind me showing your video. You do look lovely today. Well, what the heck? I might as well go out on the limb. I'm feeling spunky. You look great every day, Miss Megan. Your husband's a lucky man. Now, what do we see here? We see a walking cane, bruised arm, Apple Watch. Now, is that more that cane and the handle on it? Is it more fitting to what we are seeing compared to the cane that I showed on my channel the other day? Yes, that black cane, the top of it's black. If you look at it, it's very squared off, almost like a handle of a pistol. And that might be it. That the gun might not have been real in one of them footages. Depending on how much of the footage there was, how many days before this all occurred, whatever. It might have been dry runs, dry videos, you know. You don't know. Does it appear to look like that to me? Yeah, it does appear to look more like a pistol handle. Now, whether that's wood or aluminum, I'm not sure. We know the handle is black, though, on the cane. Now, look how much shorter Mrs. Guthrie's is compared to Savannah. And Savannah's got them real long legs, real tall. Porch guy? No. I don't know. Why would anybody think that Savannah Guthrie would be involved in this and be porch guy? I have no idea. She's got so much money. Why would she? I just couldn't believe it myself. What? What are you talking about? She's got money. She's worth money. If you also look at Mrs. Savannah Guthrie, look at her feet. Can anyone tell me what's going on with her feet? She has slight pigeon toe, but on the opposite side, meaning her feet point inward when she's standing. It's not Savannah Guthrie on the porch. I don't know where these people went to crime fighting school, but look at the size of Mrs. Savannah. Now, this is pretty interesting because now we know that Mrs. Nancy Guthrie was just a tiny thing, 5'2" or 5'4". Could somebody throw her over the shoulder? Possibly. And blood's dripping? Yeah, it's possible. You know, depending on when this photo was taken, she might even be older and lost more weight. We don't know when this photo was taken. So would it be possible to throw a little old lady over your shoulder and walk out? That's only 140 pounds or whatever she was. Probably, yeah. Even to a smaller guy? Well, yeah. You know, fireman's carry or something like that. Yeah. Also, like Monk's Inquiry or whatever said a cart. It's possible. A giant suitcase, like we talked about, very possible. But if there was, well, I imagine that evidence is gone once everybody has come and gone and had free range of the property. Just a truck pulling in there could have ran over a footprint, and now it's gone. A police car pulling in there could have wrecked, let's say, wheels, like Monk was saying, or small, tiny wheels, like a suitcase. And a police car comes pulling in, two or three, and whatever, rolls all over it, and well, there it went. Right? Because what we're dealing with on the outside of the house in the driveway is gravel, pea-sized gravel. I think they call it shale or whatever. Real, it'll leave impressions, you know, depending on the weight and size. Or whatever. All right, let's watch this video.
Might have been out there stalking, getting information about Savannah. Take a look at Nancy Guthrie in this picture.
Mm-hmm.
Notice anything on her left arm?
Yeah.
It's
the Fitbit or whatever.
an Apple Watch,
Apple Watch,
That looks
with
like
a white band.
Yeah.
Apple Watch with a white band. Not for nothing, but
okay. Now that looks more like what I'm seeing in the holster. Is it possible the holster, like Monk was saying, was just a diversion, and it wasn't even a real gun? Possibly. I can't see underneath her hand what the other end of the cane looks like, but it's very possible that it's the cane. Yeah, it could be. Why? Well, she couldn't walk without a cane or her walker. So would the people take the cane with, and they made it appear that it was a weapon? They might have had a weapon, but it wasn't a 9mm Glock. Very possible. And he made it appear like it was a weapon, but really it was her cane, because she would either need a cane or a walker. Maybe them two marks that Monk Inquires was talking about was a walking cart, a walker where she walks. The older people use it. And that's very possible. Would they have taken a walker, or would they have taken a cane if she's can't walk by herself or whatever? Eventually she's going to have to get up and walk or whatever. If you plan on keeping her for a long time, like they planned this, that's very possible. So I do believe that looks more like what we're seeing in the holster than the cane I showed. Excuse me. All right, hold on a minute. second thoughts. All right. So, yeah, that appears more to be like what we're seeing in the holster. Now, it could be a real gun, you know, but not a Glock, maybe. You know, could be. You know, it definitely could be. Now, there's the Apple Watch. They said that they have. You know. We can definitely see bruising, which she's on. She's on thinners or whatever, paint thinners, blood thinners. Uh, So anything that if she twists her arm wrong or she does something, or someone's even holding her up or whatever, it could cause bruising like that. Hold on a minute, folks. All right, let's keep watching.
You can see Nancy's skin. This happens sometimes with the elderly. With her skin looks almost purple from the mid forearm down, just underscoring that she was a fragile old lady. This is 2023, so 3 years before she would be abducted. Um, you can see. I mean, look at that. It's like the picture of somebody who is frail. You can see her cane. You can see her old skin. I mean, aging. I don't mean old. I mean aging skin. Obviously, a circulatory problem because you can see the blood is pooling down on her extremities, and you can see the watch. So it's telling from a number of perspectives. Now, the CBS.com report said that the perpetrator described Apple Watch with a white band on the floor of her bedroom. So, if you're just somebody taking a shot, that's risky to say that's where it was when you don't know. So you could know about the Apple Watch with the white band. I don't know that you'd be able to say where it was the day she was taken. And the other piece of it is Howard Bloom reporting, specifically, he's adding this. He says the first note actually also correctly described what Guthrie had been wearing on the night she was abducted. Again, how accurate, how closely did they describe it? I know what my mom sleeps in every night, and you could, if you hit the category, I'd probably believe you. Um, but if this person actually said, it was like leopard pajamas and that's what it was, you'd believe him. Like the FBI knows how close this guy came to the mark. And again, Harvey, who's been in constant contact with the FBI, is reporting that the FBI believes the first two are authentic. Savannah, constant contact with the FBI, believes the first two notes are authentic, like belong from the kidnapper. And my information was that the second note, the apology note, whatever we're calling it, she's now died note, that the reason they believed it was from the first guy was that it also had a reference to the same Bitcoin account as was in the first. But that is somewhat contradicted by reports out now that there wasn't a renewed demand for payment. So why would they, which I believe, like everybody's saying there was no new renewed demand for payment in the second note. So why would he have even made reference to the Bitcoin? Maybe the first report was wrong, that there wasn't a second reference to the Bitcoin account, and it was simply the IP address, such as it was, obviously masked and so on, was traced back to the same location, obviously masked or not, that it matched the first note to the second. Okay, so that's all that. But here is what I want to ask you guys about. The Harvey friend contact, friend of the kidnapper who keeps, texting in to Harvey or emailing. He is emailing Fitz. My conclusion is, my amateur sleuthing, this person is definitely not the same person as the person who wrote the first two notes, because now we figured out the timeline. The first two notes demanding payment for 4 or 6 million, and then the, oh, I'm sorry, she died. Those happened the first week Nancy had disappeared. She was taken on a Saturday into a Sunday. The first note came, we believe, on Tuesday, basically, saying, pay us by Monday or else. And the Thursday deadline for the 4 million passed. And then they received the second note saying she died before it was time to pay the 6 million. The whole point is the first week, they allegedly had Nancy taken. They received one note saying 4 million or 6 million. They received the second note saying, never mind, not never mind, but she's died. Whoops, she's died. That's what led to Savannah and her siblings coming out and saying on video, we understand. We really want to celebrate with our mother. This is important to us. We will pay. And the belief now is that this is them not explicitly acknowledging she's dead, as they've been told, because they don't want all of us to go away and stop looking for Nancy, because they don't know if this is real, right? So, like, she might be dead. This might be the actual kidnapper. But if it's not, or if she's not, they don't want all of us to take our foot off the pedal and go away and stop covering this. So the family wants to telegraph to the kidnapper, if it's real, we'll give you money for her corpse. Please stay in touch with us. Tell us how to do that. And while keeping us all on the line. But the friend of Harvey doesn't appear until second week. And his first message says, time is of the essence. I've seen them, and suggests it may be in Mexico. Then a day or two later sends another note saying, time is no longer of the essence. Telegraphing like, she's died now. Like between his first note and his second note. But the other person, a week earlier, pulled the same routine. Give us the 4 to 6 million or else. And then a couple days later, she died. So this is not the same person. I mean, maybe it's the same fraud being perpetrated from different angles, but that's what's happened. So initially I thought maybe friend of Harvey.
Wow. Now, you know, Harvey's all mixed up with this thing, Epstein thing. Phew. How did he? And that is kind of fishy. I agree with the other YouTubers where, you know, wait a minute, something's going on here. Did somebody orchestrate this? And other people, you know, weren't the Browns on TMZ or something like that a while back? Didn't they cover some story on the Brown family or something? I don't know. That's pretty crazy. You know, and people are going, what the heck is going on? Well, when you're desperate for money, when you're you know wrapped up into something and people need to go, you know, is it possible because Mrs. Savannah interviewed some people and broke stories on some stuff and was covering some stuff that people got mad and wanted this stuff? Maybe. You know, is it Mrs. Guthries, Savannah's fault? No. You know, not if, you know, Miss Savannah is known for covering high topic, high priority cases or interviews with politicians, numerous stuff. You know, her personally being at fault, no. Everyone's going to nitpick it. Could there have been better security? Well, yeah. Can you ever have not enough security? You know, was there, you know, people? Well, they should have had a live-in maid there. You know, someone that stayed in the. Well, maybe. You know, who knows? But I don't think it's because of her. I think this was somebody tried to get some money. Definitely more than one person involved. Now, Tommaso being involved, possibly. He was in the music scene. So were some other people that were starting to break into the music scene. Maybe some of these YouTubers did things they shouldn't have done to break into the music scene or whatever. And what do they do? Well, you'd be shocked what you have to do. Well, look at all the stuff on Feldman saying, well, these people did this to me. Look at what some of these dudes have to do to look at the one guy that was in charge of that one boy band or whatever that was gay, and in order to be in the band and make it, they had to do sexual favors to him. You know, that was a huge story that broke a while ago.
Was dovetailing at the same time as the first two-letter guy. And initially they were like, right, pay, time is of the essence. They both were kind of saying that. And then they initially were both like, and never mind. But that's not true. It was a week later. And it's part of the reason why I think Friend of Harvey is completely bullshit. I have an open mind on the first guy. Friend of Harvey seems like a complete fraudster. And last but not least, let me play what Harvey Levin said just a couple of hours ago as he revealed Friend of Harvey, or Friend of Kidnapper, has been in touch yet again. And this is what he said. Stop 49.
Only two are directly involved. He says that he has video. He has video of Nancy Guthrie with the main kidnapper. He says, while what it contains is my definition of delivering it on a silver platter, a short video of the main guy with Nancy the day that was probably her last. He also says that
He's blinking a lot in the face. He looks horrible. He needs a he needs some rest. I can't believe this is going on. It's just horrible. So now a letter shows up, and that letter now has just showed up and just coming out again. Harvey knows this person. He's a friend of Harvey's, or whoever this is, and now they're saying that he has proof, and the phone has been, he found the phone, and he has footage, video of Nancy Guthrie with the main head guy that orchestrated all this, and has a photo with or the kidnapper, he's saying. So, you would have had to been there to get footage. What do you mean? That the guy was filming Mrs. Guthrie after he kidnapped her, or how would you have that footage? Very interesting. You know, what does it sound like to me? It sounds like somebody's covering up for someone's family or something. It's pretty crazy if you ask me. Or trying to do something. Now the phone shut off. Well, is it any coincidence? Maybe this guy did something bad. Maybe the family members of the guys, or one of the guys that did something bad, now has control of the phone. You know, maybe one of them guys snapped, did something, but now they have a phone that possibly might be linked. Maybe, you know, and is it the right phone? This is very interesting. But why TMZ? Why is this stuff not going directly to the FBI or police? It's always the news. Well, Zodiac, he toyed with the newspapers and the news places and whatever. So, very interesting.
he has names, addresses, phone numbers of the kidnappers. Now, He says he has that video in a phone, and the phone is turned off. It is in a secure, secret location, but a location easy to find if you know where to look. That's what he says. He doesn't say a safe deposit box, but he says easy to find if you know where to look. And he says that if he gets a Bitcoin, he will deliver, as he puts it, on a silver platter, exactly how to get access to this phone, including the password.
Now, there's another clue right there.
John,
There's another clue right there. Who would have the access to the passphone of somebody's phone that did this? Only someone very close to him. A family member, a woman, a girl that he was sleeping with, or a woman that a man was sleeping with. Only somebody very close to this person would have a password to the phone.
Kelly, thoughts on that?
This guy's looking for his 15 minutes of fame in a Bitcoin. I mean, that's about what this amounts to me. I mean, this is just, silliness. I mean,
You don't believe that guy at all.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it for 1 minute. He's getting off, that it keeps getting reported, and he's on TV and he's hearing about himself, and he's getting off to that, and he's trying to get a Bitcoin in the meantime. This guy, I look, I can be wrong, right? There's no question about it, but I wouldn't give this guy 10 cents, let alone a Bitcoin,
Yeah. And you heard Harvey later come out, Fitz, and say, if you're real, go to wherever the phone is, get a screen grab of something proving you're not a liar. If you've got something, send it. You've been sending us more than a dozen emails. Send us something to show you're not a fraudster. That's not going to happen. And by the way, Fitz, do you remember when this guy sent his first or second note to Sheriff Harvey? He said, you won't be hearing from me again. Okay. It's been like 10 notes later. Harvey's begging him to send something proving he's not a fraudster. And I think we all know where that's going to lead.
Yeah, fake, phony, and fraudster, the three.
Well, that's not true. That's not true, because we believe that there was more than one person involved. There was probably 2, 3, maybe 4 or 5. We don't know. We don't know. So, who else would do this? Who else would send emails still trying to get money? The people that got away, the ones that didn't get killed by the bosses. If this was like they're saying, like all these people saying, the boss of a crew or something or whatever. If there's only the people that survived. That maybe these people off themselves. We don't know. Only they would have, some of that was there, that knew about it, that would try, to now pin it on someone else. Oh, I got the phone. I'm going to make it look like I solved the case, and I'm going to turn it. Here's the evidence. It wasn't me. It was these people. Here's the evidence. Yeah, I don't know if it would be real. The whole thing with Harvey is weird. They keep talking to him, but they're not sending. Now, how come Harvey ain't like, hey, listen, don't send me any more messages. If you have something to say, send it to the police or the FBI. They're the ones that are handling the money. Don't send it to me, because I'm not going to do anything. It's not my problem. But it continues to come in. I don't know why. It's pretty crazy.
F's there, alliteratively speaking. Yeah, we're going back and forth with this, Megan. I probably use the next 3 words I'm about to say, a half dozen times with you in February. I'm going to modify it slightly. Back then, all they were asking for was proof of life, 3 words. Now, it's very likely Nancy is deceased. Now, give us proof of death. Why all this game playing, this showmanship, these machinations going back and forth and people guessing and folks like us discussing this on the air, which is fine because we have limited information. And of course, I'm going to say again, the investigators would be remiss if they didn't follow through on this. But I hope they're telling Savannah to please, don't get overly, what's the right word, but don't get overly confident that this is something that's going to come to pass. Because we wanted proof of life, and we never really had that. A Fitbit or the Apple Watch, whatever it was, on the floor, and describes it. Okay, and Megan, by the way, that picture you showed of Savannah with her mother with the watch, I assume that was public before the abduction, correct?
We think so. I actually asked my team where we got it, and they said it's been circulating online, but by all people who are watching this case. So, but it would have to be, right? Because Nancy's been missing. And
but I mean, whether it was public,
it's on the Today Show set,
whether it was public or not on Facebook or whatever is what I'm suggesting here, so that the person would know how to describe the watch. If this was a private collection, that Savannah never put out there, all right, that tells us a little something more. If it's out there, and Megan, I was on with you, I think live one day, and you found.
Yeah. So the people that did take her, I think they sacrificed her or did something. Or it was a killing. Someone paid some people to kill her. Why, I have no idea. Or it could be some sacrificing crap going on out there. There's a bunch of crazies out there in the desert when the lights go down. So, what do you make of it? We all we got is what we got, what they give us. Now, if that photo's been out for years, then the guy didn't even have to. All he had to do was look at a photo. She has a cane. My God, she does have a cane. She has an Apple Watch. My God, she does have an Apple Watch, or she did. She's got a heart monitor. All things that might have been taken or might have been exposed already on the internet, and they just use it to make you think that they have her, when they really don't. Another thing, we were told so many times back and forth, no, she didn't have a pacemaker. Why? Because I'm like, well, there's a body that was just dug up, or some guy had a body of some older person with a pacemaker. That Jonathan Galat dude or whatever. Somebody said there was a body hanging and it still had a pacemaker in it. So we are all looking for somebody with a pacemaker, right? Pacemaker. And then everyone came out and said she didn't have no pacemaker. It was a heart monitor. It just monitors your heart. She didn't have a pacemaker. So now everyone's looking, she had a pacemaker. But she don't. She has a heart monitor. I went back and forth. Pretty crazy, if you ask me.
Your team found a walkthrough of Nancy's bedroom. And there was a video that, years before, and I'm probably the older woman hasn't changed her bedroom that much. It's the same house, same bedroom. And as I think you even commented, your mother, remember my mother, you just don't change much when you get, past 50 or 60 in your bedroom unless you actually move. Yeah. So it wouldn't be hard to watch that somewhere. And then in fact, come up with this, this inside singular knowledge that only the real kidnapper knows. And again, I'm saying this was an abduction, not a kidnapping for.
But Jim, you don't find it persuasive. Like, if the cops got there, and that Apple Watch was on the floor, that's good. That would convince me this was actually from the real kidnapper.
I'd have to, and I would agree with you, Megan, on that particular note. But it also doesn't mean these are the kidnappers. And I'm not sure the guy who abducted her would have put some letter out like this, making it look like a kidnapping as opposed to an abduction. And really quick, the other point I wanted to make here, there have been for-profit criminal kidnappings over the years. I hate to go back 94 years, Lindbergh, the baby died within 10 minutes of being brought down the ladder in Hopewell, New Jersey, and Hoffman buried the body there. But the kidnapping, the ransom request went on for 2 years. Sidney Riso was shot in the arm in 1992. He's the Exxon executive in northern New Jersey. And he died a day or two later, but the husband and wife kidnapping team kept up all the negotiations for the next 6 to 8 weeks or so. So why did the...
And what case is this also like? I'm gonna throw it out there. I know people are gonna get upset probably. The John Ramsey case, John Bonnet Ramsey case, where whoever wrote that ransom note already knew that John Bonnet was dead. So whoever wrote this could have Miss Nancy Guthrie been dead right off the bat. You know, yeah. Maybe because what, they left evidence, maybe she struggled, maybe there was DNA on the body underneath the fingernails, whatever. Yeah, very well possible they took the body because of that. Because usually a robbery, you ain't taking no one with you. They're there to rob you, not take you with. Why they didn't kill her there? Well, it explains why, is because there must have been a struggle or something. And there was DNA. They knew we can't leave her. Right? She's got DNA underneath her fingernails. She's got DNA on her body. She's seen your face, ripping the mask away or whatever. So they can't leave her there. They gotta take her. If they weren't there to take her and they were there just to rob the house, and there was no contact between the two of them, the perpetrator and Mrs. Guthrie, there was no need to take her out of that house unless there was DNA on her that the perpetrator knew they're going to find it.
Person, so if she did die, why did they give up on the kidnapping? There had to be a lot of planning with this, whether from overseas, locally, whatever, whether the kidnap, mastermind was somewhere else, and this was local talent that he hired to go in with the mask and the Doc Holliday holster in front of him and carry through there. But why just give up on the kidnapping? If you had that proof of life, send something. Send the pajamas, or at least cut a piece off that the mother was allegedly wearing, and say, we have her, here's the pajamas she was wearing, she's okay, give us the money. They would have paid that money in a heartbeat, knowing that kind of proof. But everything is so nebulous, so amorphous, that I don't blame them. I'm glad they didn't pay the big bucks to these people with such little information to provide. Again, successful abduction.
Well, the guy is right. I can't say this dude is wrong. If this was a real professional job, they would have took a photo of Mrs. Guthrie holding up a paper, a newspaper with the date on it. And they would have put it here, hold this up. We're going to take a photo of you. They would have took that photo and they would have sent that. Your mother is alive. Look at the date on the newspaper and send the money. But they didn't. They didn't. Any real dude that knew what they were doing, yeah, they would have sent proof. You're talking $4, $5, $6 million they were asking for. They would have sent proof. Hey, we're such and such, and we have your mother. And they would have sent a photo with her with some kind of a date on it to say, hey, she's still alive. That's her holding the newspaper. That they're telling the truth. But that never happened.
criticized the interactions there on the porch, but a half-assed kidnapping, and I would just further surmise it never was meant to be a for-profit kidnapping by legal definition.
John, our pal Howard Bloom, who's reporting in Airmail, restarted this case this week because he was the one who first revealed some of the contents of the second note. He is reporting that there's a case of regret happening right now amongst law enforcement because they are starting to think they should have just paid the $4 million and then followed the money. And that would have gotten them to somebody, which would have given them some answers. And again, the reporting is that the FBI thinks that $4 million demand came from the actual kidnapper. Here is Howard on, I don't know where he was this week, but he was on Inside Edition. And he was talking about this theory in terms that John Wayne fans may find familiar. SOT 56.
The $4 million ransom was never paid, and investigative reporter and best-selling author Howard Bloom says detectives he spoke to are regretting that decision today.
Not to have done that originally when the window of opportunity was there was perhaps a very big, even a fatal mistake.
He says Tucson police considered using what they called the Big Jake theory, a tactic inspired by the 1971 John Wayne Western, Big Jake.
Let it down! Come on! Let me down!
In the movie, John Wayne's grandson is kidnapped, and he chases the bad guys.
He has a plan. He's going to pay the money, but also get the money back and his grandson back. And the cops refer to that because that's what they feel should have been done in this case. They should have paid the ransom, hoped to get Nancy back, and then worry about getting the money back.
Bloom believes the kidnappers got the idea to kidnap Nancy after Savannah returned home to shoot a special for the Today Show last November.
The best thing about Tucson is coming home and seeing you guys.
I believe someone in Tucson saw this and they saw, look at these people. They have so much. Their life is so blessed. And in their greed, they came up with this scheme to take Savannah's mother.
We should care about the end times because a bad day is coming for the residents of planet Earth.
So what do you make of that, John, that thought they should have just paid the $4 million?
Yeah, no, if you listen to what he said there, he said the Tucson police. He didn't say the FBI.
I probably wouldn't have, paid that, especially if they said we're not putting it in Bitcoin. Bitcoin's very hard to track. You could track it, but you can also have fake wallets, right? You put it in there, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's gone. And now you're tracking a wire that might be a burner phone, might be just completely fake, might have, who knows? It might have came from another country. I don't know. Maybe they're heading to Switzerland. A lot of these government guys. Maybe it was somebody in Switzerland that was trying to do it. You remember that movie, Fast as You Could Be, or whatever. You'll Never Catch Me with Leonardo or Leo DiCaprio or whatever his name was. Where the guy was traveling all around and doing that. Maybe. Was it something having to do with YouTube? Maybe. I don't think I would have paid the $6 million or $4 million and then took a chance. Well, I guess I would. If I had 50 million laying around and someone kidnapped my kid, and they were asked, well, we want 4 million. Well, I got 50 million, right? So a couple million ain't gonna break me. And it's your own mother, right? So you pay it. But even then, you don't know if these people even had the body. This could have been someone that, like these people are saying, was on the internet watching this whole thing and just figured they'd take a chance and see if they can collect. I always thought that these letters were a diversion or someone trying to make a grab for the money. And they didn't kidnap them and they didn't have anything to do with it. Probably they just were trying to make a grab for the money. So that's very possible.
Follow me? I would
Yeah.
not. I would not. If the FBI didn't go along with that wholeheartedly, I would not go along with it. I would. Can the Tucson police track that? I don't know. Do I believe the FBI could track that Bitcoin transaction? Absolutely. One other question, two questions I have that I think are important. The one question is her cane. Did anybody say that her cane was out of the house, that the cane was missing from the house?
I have not heard that the cane was either left behind or taken. I don't know anything about it.
Okay, because that's important for some guy that's apologizing, right? For or seemingly putting together some kind of empathy.
Yeah, I agree with the guy. We'd have to see if the cane was still there, or they might have left the cane. They might have used the cane only for the footage to make it appear like they had a weapon. They might have had a weapon, but they didn't want to show it because they might have been connected to that weapon. It might have been a totally different weapon, and they knew if they showed their weapon that somebody might see it and say that's the weapon that was used. So could it be they just used the cane for the footage to make it appear it was a weapon of a different style? Very well. It very well could be. Did they take the cane? Because it was an 84-year-old woman. She ain't going to walk anywhere or do anything without a cane. Her walker? Yeah. If she had a walker at the house, would they take it? Yeah, this is somebody that might have been really a good-hearted person, but they were only doing this for money, or they were just evil and they were going to sacrifice her or whatever. And she was old, and oh well, but they were going to do some spirit ritual, you know, and use her. Yeah, it's very possible. I can't close the door to any of this stuff. Very possible.
For the woman. And then the other thing, again, I go back to what you brought up, Megan, about the news and the watch and everything, being found on the floor on the news. I mean, these guys watch everything. I'm telling you, they're watching. This guy who's out there's watching this, and this brings me back to what Jim said early on in this interview, in this show. Okay, Jim, you talked about him being scared. Whoever this guy is, right now, he's scared. Talk about that.
Well, especially Fitz, because did you hear what Maureen said on this show on Wednesday?
I heard a
Maureen,
few things. I know she put a 75 percentile mark out there.
I'll play it just for the audience that didn't hear her. But we love Maureen, and she's former FBI too, and she said the following 2 days ago.
The person we're talking to could say, wow, they're probably closer than we think they are.
Can you just expand on why you think they're they're getting there, that they're close to making an arrest?
I think they're getting close to the porch guy. And when they get the porch guy, the floodgates shall swing open.
What's your level of confidence on that?
75%.
That's big news.
I know.
She's not loosey-goosey. Maureen's careful. She's considered. She's bright. And she's got connections. So that was very interesting. And it did make a lot of news. It went everywhere. Your thoughts?
Yeah. And I trust Maureen implicitly. And if she has sources that I don't have right inside the investigation, good for her. And of course, if that person was identified, that would open the floodgates or whatever she said there.
Thanks for watching this clip. If you're new here, subscribe. We got a whole lot more goodness where that came from. Would love to hear your feedback. You can email me too, Megan, MEGYN @megankelly.com, or just leave a comment below. But join the community by becoming a subscriber. We really, really value your input and your support.
All right, we're gonna watch something on Brian Etten. I believe. Let's watch Brian Etten.
Subscribe to my channel. It's Friday. It's been just a very busy week when it comes to the Nancy Guthrie case in terms of information coming out about these ransom notes. And now there is even more that has come out. And this is in relation to another note that TMZ claims that they have received a new note, which I'm going to get to all the details in a second. In this episode, I'm also going to interview really famed FBI profiler James Fitzgerald. He actually helped solve the Unabomber case. And I'm going to have him really zero in on everything that we've learned this week when it comes to the first two ransom notes that we know went to the local TV stations. The ransom notes that I've reported the FBI believes are real. That's the one first that said, Dear Savannah, we have your mother Nancy and demanded a ransom. And then also the second note where we've now learned the person said that Nancy Guthrie was dead and was with nature now. Super interested to see what Fitzgerald has to say about all of that. Again, this was his job, like reading into notes like this and trying to figure out who was behind them. So I'm going to have him go through everything, which is going to be really, really interesting, which we know is what the FBI is also doing behind the scenes. First, though, let me get you guys the latest on what TMZ is now reporting about another note that they've received. They say it's the same man who's written to them in the past who claims to know who the kidnappers are behind the Nancy Guthrie abduction. And he said that he can lead police to these kidnappers, and he's just asking for 1 Bitcoin, which is, the whole thing is strange. But nonetheless, I think we have to consider everything at this point. And this is obviously separate from those first two ransom notes. But this is the latest from TMZ. According to TMZ, they say who written to them in the past who claims to know who the kidnappers are behind the Nancy Guthrie abduction. And he said that he can lead police to these kidnappers.
Okay, what do you see in this photo? Well, what appears to be cameras. That's on the pool house. Either that's a camera right there, that small white one right there. I wish my mod was here. She'd be able to take a screenshot and then I'd be able to blow it up. But I believe that's a camera right there. Either that is or this is. I believe this is probably a light over the sliding glass doors, and that's a camera. So now you got what? You got 2 cameras pointing towards the front. Now, anyone coming in that driveway, going into that garage, is on film. Anyone walking around there is on film. That looks like to me a camera. What do we have in front? A ringtone. What did we have in the backyard? A camera. Why are we not seeing the full footage of it? I don't know. They might be going over footage from the day it happened to a month, 6 months back to see who was casing the place or looking or whatever. Maybe somebody out of town, maybe 3-4 states, maybe went there before just to do what? To scope the place out. What, a month before? 2 months? Maybe 6 months? Maybe a year? Maybe. This might have been something in the works, a planned, whatever. Not very good, but yeah, very, very possible.
kidnappers, and he's just asking for 1 Bitcoin, which is, the whole thing is strange. But nonetheless, I think we have to consider everything at this point. And this is obviously separate from those first 2 ransom notes. But this is the latest from TMZ. According to TMZ, they say whoever wrote this note said, I am not the idiot who recently called in a tip about her burial site in Mexico. Only 2 are directly involved, and I doubt they would be the ones calling to snitch on themselves. So he's referring to the anonymous tip that went to the group of searchers in Mexico. He says he has video, and this is a new element here. He says he has video of Nancy Guthrie with the main kidnapper on what would probably have been the last day of her life. It's a big claim that he makes. He says it contains.
So this person claiming that they have footage of Mrs. Guthrie and the kidnapper, the main person that did it or whatever. It sounds like somebody might have ended up with a phone that, well, this was just put out recently, right? This new demand or whatever. It's probably like somebody that was close to somebody that did this. Now they have the phone. You know, whether, who knows what it was. You know, could have been anything. You know? So, is it true? I don't know. That's pretty crazy, you know. And it's obvious it's somebody trying to get money, because if they had the proof. Now just think of this, okay? I'm going to lay this out for you folks. If they had the proof, they're going to make money no matter what. They're going to make money no matter what. Why? Because they solved the case. You know, if this was truly somebody that wasn't in on it, and they're just after the money, and this was a person with morals, and even if it was his own family or their own family, her own family, whatever it may be, had evidence of this, you know, they would just turn it in, say, listen, I got evidence that it was this person, and you know, here it is, you know, here it is, here. And why? Well, he's going to make money. Why? Because everyone's going to want to interview that dude. TV places are going to be calling, every news channel is going to be calling, and they're going to make money just in interviews. And if he knew the dude, if he was related to the dude, whoever, you know, whatever it may be, a woman, you know, was married to him or dating him or whatever, you know, they're going to make money just in interviews, you know, and possibly their story being told and movies being made about it or TV programs. They're going to make money. We're not dumb. That's how it is. Everyone, we solved the case. Now everybody wants to talk to you. No. So if this was anybody that had any good intentions, they would have never asked for money. They would have turned it in. Meet me here. I got all the evidence, or call the authorities. And what would they have done? They would have called the authorities. Listen, I think I have evidence that these people, that this person did it. Here's the footage. Here's the phone that they use. Here's yada, 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 yada. You know, and then the story would have broke. You know, the person, well, how'd you find this out? Oh, this guy told us. You know, and now everybody's calling them. You know, like I said, all the news people, all the, you know, we'll give you $5,000, we'll give you $10,000. You know, that's how they do it. So, you know, would I don't know if I could believe it.
Numbers of the kidnappers says he has that video in a phone. So that's something new. The video in a phone, and the phone is turned off in a secret, secure location, but a location easy to find if you know where to look. He says if he gets a Bitcoin, he will deliver the phone on a silver platter. Gives a Bitcoin address.
Silver platter. No, this guy's watching my scripts. Right? This guy's watching his scripts. We serve people up on silver platters all the time. Yeah, I don't know. You know, like I said, Tommy. What have you done? Nothing. He didn't do anything. So we can take Tommy and Matt Brown's video off of there. They're still looking for Tommy Bucks. Not that Tommy. But also in this video, I question, is that a milk jug? An old time milk jug sitting there? Because to me, it looks like a suitcase on wheels. That black thing by the cactus. Now, it could be a milk jug container that they planted flowers in or just let it sit there. Or it could be some kind of a suitcase device or something. Was she on oxygen? I wonder if she was on oxygen. These son of bitches might have took her oxygen tank with her. If she was on oxygen, then that might be an oxygen, one of them portable electric oxygen things. I'm going to do a video on that because there's people saying it. No, it's a milk container, an old giant milk container, and it might be that, but it could be her oxygen tank if she had oxygen.
And Harvey Levin, who's obviously the boss at TMZ, has asked that person to screen grab something to prove that what they're saying is true, something on the phone to show proof that he's not a fraudster. Harvey Levin says that he has alerted the FBI to all of this. I think a lot of us are skeptical of these TMZ notes. Is this just someone looking for attention? TMZ seems to be taking them seriously. TMZ seems to think it's the same person who sent emails in the past. So perhaps the FBI hopefully will look into this. These notes are obviously separate again from the first two ransom notes that we've been talking about all week, but I want to get to James Fitzgerald, get his take on this latest TMZ note, and then what I'm really interested in is his take on the first two notes.
Thanks, Mike.
See you next month.
So you can get these delivered?
It's literally water.com.
Really appreciate you joining me as always. Thank you. Thank you very much. Your podcast is awesome, by the way. I always put the link down in the description. And you're the perfect person to talk to because we've had so much come out this week about all of these notes, which I want to get your take on. First, though, this new TMZ reporting, and I'm a little skeptical with this TMZ stuff. It seems separate from the first two notes, obviously, that came, but they are now.
Debbie, what's up? Oh, you sent me something? What'd you send me? Oh, okay. Yes, I'm good. Sure. Well, I don't see anything. I don't see you sending me anything. Are you sure you sent it to me? I don't see anything. Oh, you sent me a message that you were mowing. Oh, okay. What I played. Oh, you sent me this one. You didn't send me the other one with Miss Megan Fox or Megan Kelly. That's the one I wanted to see, or I showed you. I sent that to you. What? You're playing. Oh, yeah, this is the one you sent me with Brian Enton. Debbie, what do you think about Brian Enton? I didn't see that. No, Debbie, I was telling the people, well, if my one mod was here, I'd be able to get screenshots of the cane that Mrs. Guthrie was holding. But you weren't here at the time. I have always liked him. Well, you like him, but can you trust him? I mean, a lot of people are questioning this. What's crazy is now everybody is becoming mask guy. It's almost like bridge guy. Everybody was bridge guy. I was doing videos joking with people. There was people walking down the sidewalks there. I'm like, here comes bridge guy. He's walking. People were like, everyone is bridge guy to you. I'm like, well, till the case is closed, everyone is bridge guy. People are so jealous of Brian. Oh, she's in love with Brian. If I did a Brian video, she'd probably kill me. Unbelievable. Miss Fox, are you still there? Are you still here, Miss Fox? Hold on, Miss Fox. Hold on, Miss Fox. What are you doing? Hold on, Miss Fox. Okay, can you hold on there, Miss Fox? I want to ask you to see if you could do something for. Why won't this let me change? It won't let me go back. Oh, now I gotta go to Miss Debbie Fox. Or hold on, Miss Fox. Yeah, I see. I see your message, but I'm trying to do something, Mrs. Fox. Hold on a minute. Trying to find that video I just sent you about the Nancy Guthrie thing. No, I can't find it. Hold on. Why not? This is crazy. This is crazy. Where's that at? Is this it? Nancy TMZ reveals location. Is that the one we were just showing by Harvey? I'm looking for the one. I can't believe it. No, I can't find it. Hold on a minute, Mrs. Fox. Trying to do something. I said she's gone. Threw it all away. Said she's gone. Yes, she's gone. Great. No, I can't find it, Debbie Fox. Just great. Now it won't let me go. Don't make me watch Harvey. No, it was the video I just showed of Mrs. Savannah and Nancy standing together. It was a photo. If you go back in my video here, you'd see it. But I can't go backwards. And what I did was close the tab that I had Mrs. Kelly's video on. I had Mrs. Kelly. Let me see if I can find her channel again. Mrs. Fox. Hold on a minute. I'm very big. Yeah, Steven Tyler. Yes, son, said, don't do talking no good for your mama. Is it talking no good for your mommy? Then the mama and the baby. Oh, what a monkey you say. All right, Mrs. Fox, I'm going to show you this.
Protein so
Hold on.
tasty, Hercules lifts a spoon instead. Divine taste, legendary protein.
Whether you're backing up your home, exploring the outdoors, or powering the job site, Harbor Freight has the portable generators you need. From traditional gas generators to...
Here's the picture I wanted to show you. So we discussed how the perpetrator might have been out there stalking, getting information about.
I wanted to ask my mod if she could take a screenshot. Hold on. Oh, let me hold on. Ho. Debbie, wait. Ho. Okay. Now, I was going to ask my mod if you can take a screenshot of that because I want to zoom in on it. I want to get a shape of that cane, that black cane that's in her hand. Now, hold on a minute. I want to, because if we go further, they zoom in. I was wondering if you could take a screenshot of that right there, Mrs. Fox. You see that handle? What does that handle look like? A 9mm, 9 Glock, maybe a SK, maybe a small, weapon. I was just going to ask if you could take a screenshot of that, if you could be so kind. If you could be so kind. No, you didn't spell that right, but that's okay. We still love you on this channel. Yeah, that's Harvey Ballgagger, you said. You spelled it right. If you could take this screenshot of that real quick, we can move on and watch Brian Etten, because I know you're in love with him. I know that much. All right, now I can move on. All right, let me get back over to Mr. Brian Etten's video that Mrs. Fox sent. We could check that. Hold on a minute. Hold on. YouTube. Let me see if this is the one that Debbie sent. Yeah. All right. Now let's get back to this Brian Etten one. I sent that. Thank you, Miss Fox. You're so kind today. Just a lovely bowl of cherry. All right, let's continue with this.
And you're the perfect person to talk to because we've had so much come out this week about all of these notes, which I want to get your take on. First, though, this new TMZ reporting, and I'm a little skeptical with this TMZ stuff. It seems separate from the first two notes, obviously, that came. But they are now claiming the guy who's been messaging them has sent a new email where he says that he's got the names, addresses, and phone numbers of the kidnappers, that there's a video that he has on a phone that shows Nancy with the main kidnapper, and that he will basically hand all of this over for 1 Bitcoin. What do you make of that?
First of all, and again, Brian, thanks for having me on your podcast. This guy, I don't think he's legit. I'm going to say that up front. I'm not sure any communication, and people are calling them notes, letters, whatever, posts, but I'm just going to call them communications, however they showed up. I don't think any of them are authentic, and that includes this most recent one. So 2 things. Why to TMZ? I mean, from the beginning, but certainly this one, where this guy is now alleging that he has some kind of a hidden phone in a secret place, whatever, and it has pictures of the last day Nancy was alive, and names, addresses, and ages of the two kidnappers. Okay, you think the two kidnappers would know who this guy is who is putting this stuff out there? And if they do, they're going to take him out if they're really these badass, alleged kidnappers, which, again, I don't think they are. So why is he doing this? If everything you just said, and we're hearing from TMZ, et cetera, was true, go right to the source, meaning the sheriff's department or the FBI, and let them work this case. And they wouldn't go public with it, which they shouldn't. And that way, this guy is safe. And his buddies or his colleagues, whoever they are, neighbors, and he knows where the body is and where it's buried, whatever, he'd be safe. So, like virtually every communication we've heard of so far, we've never seen them. And as you know, along with being a profiler, I'm a forensic linguist. I want to see the actual language. That's what I want to see. Hearing snippets, well, someone said this and someone included that. Okay, what is the actual language being used? But even that aside for now, the content of what we're discussing.
Well, I agree with the dude. Whoever's doing this had to have been there or knew what was going on. Because, like I said, if this was a good-hearted person, they wouldn't be asking for any money. They would have called the FBI or CIA or whatever, Homeland, whoever, police, and they would have said, "Hey, I got evidence that these people did this." Here, and whoever's doing this don't realize that they would have just did that. They would have got money coming in because everyone would have wanted to interview the guy. The news channels would have been calling like crazy. How did you know that? How did you know the people? How did you stumble onto this? How did you? Everyone would want it. They'd be calling him, unless he just figured it out. But he. I don't think so. I think he's probably one of them. Because we, right from the bat, always thought there was more than one person involved in this. It was too risky to ask for that much money and do it yourself with all this stuff you have to do to make sure this goes off and everything, you get the money. And I just see that it probably would take more than one. It might have been more than one. I already know who, my opinion, it was and everything. And we also have 20 other people that are suspects on this case. But the only reason they just got a email was either these people have the phone, someone off themselves, and somebody has the phone, the family retrieved the phone, or somebody that did this. Maybe whoever planned this whole thing killed them, and they have their property, and they went through their phone. But in order to, and if there was a password, then the guy, either he's a hacker of the kidnappers, or whoever he claims that's kidnapping, or the guy was related to the people or involved themselves. That's the only way, because this guy can give anybody's name, anybody's IP, anybody's password if he's a hacker. He's trying to set someone else up, yeah. I mean, think about it. How the heck would he have this evidence that only the real kidnappers would have? Debbie, I've seen that you sent that. Thank you very much.
It doesn't make sense to me. Why would he risk himself for, and if I've done the math right, I think one Bitcoin today is worth like $61,000.
Yeah.
US dollars. That's not a whole lot of money to put your life on the line. So, and this guy may just be looking for a quick buyout. I'm not going to ask him for 10 million. They may not pay that. You know what? 61 grand wouldn't be bad though, tax free, whatever. So I'll just ask for that. And if there even is a phone somewhere in some hole in the ground, it'll be bogus with nothing on it. So, and I'll end it with this. The investigators would be remiss not to follow up on this. No ands, if, or buts. But they shouldn't be taking too much valuable time away from other leads they could be following, whatever they are at this point in time. After what are we talking? 4 months, 4.5 months at this point?
Yeah,
Almost
4.5 months.
So I don't see a whole lot in this. And again, why go to TMZ? Go right to the source if you're serious about it. They never did. And on top of that,
Exactly. TMZ, they never tried contacting the family. They never tried contacting the authorities if they were really serious. Let me see what Debbie Fox is saying. She sent me some policy. Matt sent it from heaven. He sent what, Debbie? The information or the phone? Maybe. Is it possible they're going to be like, no, Matt Brown was investigating me? I'm like, we got these dudes. That's probably what they're going to do. Well, because discover all these bigwigs around them, you guys didn't see this happening. What the heck? But then again, there's rumors out there that Discovery was feeding them a bunch of meth or drugs or whatever. All right, let me see what Debbie's saying. She's mad already. Keep it up, and I'll do a video on Brian and Debbie. You're not going to stop till they convict Matt. No, I did not say that, silly woman. This ain't about Matt Brown. You're bringing it up. This is about Nancy Guthrie, and we're watching. Debbie says, so happy ATS is going live. When? What is already? What is today? I don't even know what today is. Folks, make sure you go over to this ATS News channel for your local news on all this stuff. What time is she going live? 8, 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock? 8 o'clock Eastern, Central, Mountain Standard, Central Time. So, yeah, I think it's starting to all come together. Obviously, we pretty much have the case, probably. What can I do? There's nothing I can do about it. Evidence sits there. And here's the thing. I agree with this dude. If they were really serious, they wouldn't have monkeyed around with TMZ. They might have got the family's attention. They might have got the and that's who really should really their focus, the kidnappers' focus, if this was real kidnapping, should have been the family. Why? Because they're the money, not the FBI, not the CIA, not TMZ. The family, they have their mother. So being that they didn't even contact the family was kind of weird. Like maybe somebody was put up to do something and it went bad. Like someone that was hurting for money. They knew it, had a drug problem, control, whatever. Might have been, let's just say, a pedo himself or a rapist. And somebody had the goods on him. Maybe someone inside. Maybe, a lot of people don't understand. Mrs. Savannah Guthrie had some interviews with some of these politicians, and I'm not going to mention any names, but she was pretty tough on them. They might have a grudge. It's possible. It might have been someone to try and grab the money for publicity in the news and everything. Breaking TMZ. Now, why would they send it to TMZ? You have to look at that too. It's kind of weird if this is really real. and they wanted to get the money and get it fast, what would they have done? They would have took her, photographed her with a paper of that day, and not even a paper, because that paper would be able to be traced. A newspaper. Oh, there she is with a newspaper done today. What's the name of that newspaper? They would have been able to track that. So something they would have to have done, whether it be just a photo of Mrs. Nancy Guthrie, holding up a piece of paper saying I'm still alive, and today's date and the date on it, then that would have shown the negotiators or whoever it was, yeah, that's her, and they do have her. Just give them the money, and we'll figure this out later. But that never happened, and I think the whole thing is a diversion to somebody did something to her, either killed her for money, the killers were already paid or whatever, or some crazy witchery, sorcery shit, magic and all this stuff they're doing. Yeah, I imagine there's probably more people they've done this to. And them people talking about the Browns and everything, they're probably right. They might be demonic or whatever. Maybe, who knows? We don't know. We don't know these people. All right, let's keep watching that. Miss Fox, what do you posted in my chat?
You were probably going to go here next. I've said these 3 words in the first month or two. Now I'm modifying it a bit. Proof of life, not game playing, machinations. Something's hidden here, something's there. Now I'd ask for proof of death. If you want some money so we can recover the body, that's fine. Give us proof of death, and that could be done somehow. And so just like with proof of life, this has all been game playing, circular information. They may have, lucky guesses early on with, the watch on the floor or whatever, or what she was wearing. I just think all these letters are bogus, and they're undertaken by opportunists. And there's no one happier than the actual abductor. And you notice I don't call him a kidnapper. The actual abductor is the one happy. You say, oh man, whoever these goofy people are, they're taking the heat off me for a while. So that's a good thing. And that's where I stand. Kind of a wide-angled answer to your question, Brian, but I just wanted to get some of that stuff in up front.
Yeah, and I just wanted to kind of get the TMZ stuff out of the way. That obviously just happened. I'm honestly more interested in your thoughts on the first 2 notes, which seem to be the ones that the FBI and Savannah Guthrie are taking seriously. Starting with the first note, CBS News is reporting that it says, hello, Savannah, that it's addressed to Savannah. We have your mother, Nancy. And we knew they asked for $4 million. We knew some of those details, but in terms of it being addressed to Savannah, we have your mother, Nancy. Where does your mind go on that?
First of all, and again, I'm not sure if this is the language in quotation marks, but there's no reason they'd have to identify Nancy as Savannah's mother. She knows who Nancy is. But again, this may be a paraphrasing of what the communication itself said. Again, where was the proof of life? If you're going to be taken serious, offer a proof of life. For-profit kidnappings are so rare in this country, not in some other countries, but in this country, Lindbergh, 1932, Frank Sinatra Jr., early 60s, the Exxon executive, 1992 in North Jersey. And both of those, both Lindbergh baby kidnapping and Sidney Riso, the Exxon exec, they both died. I mean, the baby died probably coming down the ladder from the 2nd floor in Hopewell, New Jersey, and they just buried him on the plot. Just one person, Bruno Hauptmann, in the.
Well, he's true about that. They had access to her phone and all this stuff, and access to her and whatever, and she could have died right away. or they could have a couple days later, whatever they did, deliberately. You know, they might have done some sick stuff to the Mrs. Guthrie. You know, we don't know. And after that, they're just delusional, and they made it. Well, let's see if we can get some money out of this, and sent ransom notes and all this and that. Now, the only way this person has the phone with a photo of Mrs. Guthrie and the real kidnapper was that's what he was going to do. He was going to take a photo of her and send it to him, but it never happened. You know, I think they were probably, you know, maybe they were dumb and they didn't know what to do. And being that the heat was on them, they were asking other people, what the heck do I do? He was trying to figure it out. What the heck do I do now? I'm trying to, you know, I'm going to try and get money out of this. And then he might have realized, oh, I'm going to need a photo of her so I can send the photo proving that she's. But it never happened. She passed away before all this came to work. Maybe it's possible. I mean, it's possible, maybe. All right, let's keep going with Mr. Etten.
Property
What do we
found a year later. And the same with Sidney Riso. He was shot in the arm like during the kidnapping itself, and he died 3 days later. But they kept it up, and they were sending his credit cards in the mail, his Exxon ID, so they could prove they had him. Of course, they weren't sending videotapes or audio tapes, but it was proof of life, and the FBI knew to take that serious. Why are these, if they're kidnappers, why are they just playing games and not being very specific? I've also said before, leave a note when you're doing the abduction / kidnapping. Leave a note inside the house. That's and don't go to the police at all. Instead, they go to TMZ because they just want publicity. Maybe they want to put some kind of guilt or pressure on the family. Well, the media knows this, because the FBI or the sheriff's department most likely would not have released this. So, addressing it to Savannah makes sense because.
Well, this guy can't say he's wrong. He's right. We wouldn't have heard about this if this was real and not somebody just trying to make a grab for money. And what are they doing by sending another one saying they have the phone? They're trying to divert away from. This is probably one of the people that did something. And now they're hot on it. And he's trying to divert people away from him. So they're sending this stuff again. You know, take the heat off of us, send another email. You know, but these people are scammers. They got caught doing something, and they're trying to get their way out of it, and they're begging on YouTube. If you see anybody putting out videos about anybody in our family or anything, report them and strike their channel and take their. That's something ain't right, man. I think we got an inkling of a breaking of what's up. Debbie, we're watching the video you sent of your next husband or boyfriend. You can't date young blood because he went ahead and found himself a good woman. So
I actually think
you're stuck with.
And I may have said this in an earlier podcast with you,
You're
Ryan, and on our own Cold Red podcast with Ray Carr, that I believe this whole abduction was not about money. It was about a stalking of Savannah. He couldn't get to her, and what's the next thing he could do but steal her mother from her? The kids were too well protected, or they'd just be too difficult and deal with kids, whatever. And they took the mother. She probably did die early on. I was holding out hope for a while, but so now everything else coming out, it's just opportunists from Arizona, from Eastern Europe, from Sub-Saharan Africa, wherever, taking advantage of this situation and trying to get something, even $61,000 out of.
Yeah, that might be why they went out to Switzerland. They might be looking for somebody out in Switzerland that might have been the head orchestrator or whatever, sending this or whatever. Yeah, maybe that's why they did. Who knows? I know Trump was heading out there too. They might be looking for old Frankie. It might be. You remember Frankie, Debbie? Who knows? Maybe he was a character, wasn't he? Maybe it might have something to do with these. Debbie, you still there? No, she's mad because I'm. Look at the way Brian's eyes are, Debbie. Look at how squinty they are on the side there and on here. I wonder if he's all right. What's going on there? He looks half baked. He might be a baker.
The Guthrie family. But again, the police and investigators, FBI should follow through on all of this, but I don't think it's going to take them anywhere.
So do you, again, putting the TMZ notes aside, because that seems like a different person, are you skeptical of the first two notes too, that Savannah seems to think could be real?
I am. And I have no compunction at all, I don't question at all Savannah wanting to believe they're real, and her family. They wanted their mother back. And I'm sure they collectively could have afforded the $4 million to pay for getting mom back. So of course they want to believe they're real, and they want to take every step and every precaution to work it out. But I'm glad, and unless we don't know the facts of the case, I'm glad from what we know that they never did pay any money to the kidnappers slash abductors, because without proof of life, it just would have been nonsensical to do that. And I'm hearing there's some guilt out there with some of the task force members. Maybe they should have paid the $4 million up front. That's natural in task force. I've been a few of them. Unabomb, people were upset when an interview was done in Playboy magazine, and then a marketing executive was killed like a month later. But it turns out he was planning this murder for 6 months, meaning the Unabomber Ted Kaczynski and others too. So there's I don't believe the investigators should feel bad about that. They had to play the cards that were dealt to them, and I think not paying the ransom was the right thing to do, because that would have been money lost, and there would have been no living Nancy or dead Nancy ever turned over to them. They would have vanished in the wind.
It's interesting what you said. I hadn't thought about this. Why wouldn't the person have left a note in the house? Which, you know, if you put your mind in the mind of the abductor, would have maybe been safer too. You don't have electronics involved. There's no way to trace.
No, you're wrong about that, Mr. Brian Etten. If they would have left a note, a handwritten note, well, then we would have had handwriting, and eventually he would have made a mistake. And they would have matched the handwriting, and they would have connected the dots. You know, might have been safer if somebody really was there to do that, kidnap them. And, you know, what did we see in the Ramsey case? Ransom note that was left there, even though they knew the person was already dead. They already knew that, but they left a ransom note. And that's pretty much how ransoms are, where the person's gone, but someone continues to send stuff to make it look like it. Hopefully they figure out a way where they can score big and never be found, you know. So I can't say it would have been safer for them.
You know, an email address. It seems like that would have made sense. And you could leave somewhere to leave the money, I guess, in the note, or specific directions.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of old school. I'm sure how younger people would look at it, but it would certainly prove the person who came into that house and stole Nancy were there for a very specific reason. Here are the instructions. I worked the John Benet Ramsey case early on, and we knew by the time I was involved, there was a 3-page ransom note. It was nonsensical because it really wasn't a kidnapping. The young girl was found in the sub-basement of the house 6 hours after the police showed up. But so it never was a kidnapping. But that note made a little more sense, explaining what happened, what's going to happen, how to how to wait for follow-up phone calls, things like that. And they could have handled it with gloves and made sure no DNA or anything else on it, and no paper marks, things like that. They could have written on some kind of a napkin or a leaf or something, just a piece of paper. We have your mother. We will call, or call this number. Something, of course, of a throwaway phone, a burner phone. Yeah, so that's really, if this was a serious kidnapping, that's the first thing that hit me. Again, because I don't think I ever worked. I helped with Sidney Riso case in Newark a little bit.
Well, I agree. If they were real good, they would have never went there, or they would have went there, but with like a letter or a ransom note that was printed out on a printer, So they're not leaving their handwriting. So because handwriting can be analyzed.
And there was a Harvey Weinstein, not that Harvey Weinstein. There was a tuxedo magnate in New York, or I think in the year later in '93, a couple of his former employees kidnapped him, kept them in a hole in the ground, and I helped the NYPD. They were basically running with it, but I was sort of running interference with them, and we learned a lot about that case. And that may be one of the last, actual for-profit kidnappings in the U.S. I'm familiar with one in Norway in 2018. The woman's just missing, and there were notes left in the room, and there was attempts to pay money, Bitcoin, whatever. So they're so rare. And any experts that come out, and I'll throw myself in this category, I have a historical perspective of kidnappings in this country, but they're so rare and few in between that it's just hard to project what may be happening next. This seems to me, so it doesn't seem to be a kidnapping, doesn't follow any of the rules. And if it's an abduction, I think for highly personal reasons related to Savannah, she had nothing to do with it, nor her family, but someone liked her from afar. She didn't respond with the 8x10 glossy, or let them do the phone call one day after her Today Show stint. And well, I can't get her kids. I'll show her.
Yeah, well, maybe she covered a family. Maybe she covered a politician. Maybe she covered someone that, that covered the story on them, or did a story on these people, and they held a grudge. Maybe.
That she should have liked me early on and responded to me. That is the only thing I can think of that makes any sense in this whole matter.
Yeah, that's really been your hunch since the beginning. I mean, I remember the first time we talked about it, that's where your mind went.
Yeah, and new letters to TMZ doesn't prove anything to me.
Right.
And again, show that proof of life, show that proof of death. I'm willing to change. Profilers are meant to be altered and modified with new evidence. And of course, we don't have all the evidence on the outside. I said before, Brian, you probably have better sources than I do right now. I've been out, a number of years, but at the same time, no words coming out that there's anything about to break. I hope it does. And if it's some professional kidnapping ring, based in Europe, and they hired a local guy who maybe kind of screwed up, or they didn't predict that the mother was as sick as she was, Nancy, and she died. But there is no reason they couldn't have carried out this kidnapping and attaining the money even with her dead. That has certainly happened before, and certainly in other countries.
So let's just assume the notes are real, the two notes, because obviously that's one option here that the FBI has to consider, and it seems like they are considering seriously. The second note, where it told Savannah that Nancy died, and that wasn't the intention. Why would an abductor do that? And didn't ask for money, by the way, the second time.
The simple answer is the author is not the abductor. And there's some kind of just game playing going on here. And maybe if you're classless, or what's the word, psychopathic enough to sort of tease a family with something like this. Maybe on second thoughts, well, let me make them feel a little bit better. And I'm not going to tell her where the body is because I don't know, but I'll just say, don't worry, she's dead. And at least she's not being tortured or uncomfortable, something like this. So maybe somewhere in their mindset, they feel they're doing a service to the family, and by saying, she dead, or she died, whatever, on the, I don't know, last day, or here's the last day of some video, whatever. But I also, I found the term interesting, buried with nature, I believe is how,
Buried
that's a
with
more
nature
recent.
now.
That's a more recent. But, when you think about it, Brian, you and your audience, we're all buried with nature eventually. I mean, we could be put in a lake or a pond. That's nature. We could be chopped up, put in the ground. Animals, you just hate to get graphic here. That's with nature. We could even be cremated in a way. That's nature. So you're not really saying anything there. It's a meaningless statement in that regard. And, that she was not with us anymore was not intentional. Okay. So you want to relieve, whoever this person is wants to relieve a little bit of guilt. And, but I'm still convinced they're not the actual abductors. They're just playing some mind game. They've got carefully computer systems and software which can carefully anonymize them, and they're not going to take it anywhere else. They're not going to be identified, at least I don't think. I hope at some point the FBI can get the technology to do that and identify where these are originating, but we haven't heard about that yet.
But again, if it is real, buried with nature now, and then now at the end.
Switching to a high-efficiency Navian tankless water heater from Bill's Heating means you only pay to heat the water you use. I'm Scott with Bill's Heating.
What does that mean? I mean,
we could, if I thought this was the actual abductor or arguably kidnapper, we could have a long discussion about this.
Yeah.
I don't believe it is. And I mean, again, if it comes out, this is the person that abducted her, and then she died on the first night, maybe the first hour, then okay, I'll say then this person knows a little bit more. But why even risk it at this point? Why put anything out there? There's really little risk of the person who's not involved in the abduction putting these things out there. This is like, a Dungeons and Dragons game or something, including the hidden burner phone in some safe place, whatever. And I'm kind of hoping they don't pay for that. Maybe it's worth $1 Bitcoin. I don't know. But that'll tell us a lot about the sincerity of these letters coming in. It may just be, if nothing else, close that aspect of the whole case out once they realize there's nothing in, one of these holes where the phone is supposed to be.
And I mean, again, I think the TMZ letter.
It's probably AI. Someone probably used AI and said that. Yeah, who knows? Pretty crazy.
There's the whole burner phone or whatever it is. I kind of look at that as separate. With the second letter saying she's dead, in your experience, do abductors ever feel guilt? Like, and also going back to your theory of the person maybe being like Savannah obsessed, would they then feel some way where they felt bad and wanting to tell Savannah that the mom died because they are Savannah obsessed?
Usually, no. There was a lot of pre-planning put into this, and their justification in the back of their head would be, well, I gave Savannah a chance to, continue this email string with me, and I asked for some more pictures of her signed, and she wouldn't do those Zoom calls with me, ever, and so, well, it just happens that the mother died, so I have no, it doesn't, really bother me at all. So this is Savannah's fault, is how they're thinking. If they're anywhere on the psychopathy scale, and I'm not sure they are, but, no remorse, narcissistic, lack of empathy. There's very little of that there. Remember reading in all the Unabomber's writings, not the ones he sent to the New York Times or his victims, but when we got inside his cabin, the only thing he ever regretted was putting his, I think it was his fourth bombing device. It went airmail from Chicago, I think, to Washington or something, and it went on an aircraft. and it did explode with an altimeter hooked to it, and smoke inhalation, hurt some people, but the pilots made an emergency landing. Everyone was safe. Years later, inside his cabin, like some written, hidden messages that he wrote in code, he said he was always regretted trying to bring down an aircraft because it contained, mothers and grandparents and children, and that wouldn't have been fair to them. So he was happy that his bomb didn't go off. However, we got writings of his after his first kill in 1985 at a computer store, and he was proud as a peacock about that one because this guy represented the evils of technology. I don't want to get all into the Unabomb case, but I'm just saying these people, if they're going to go to this extent, remember this abductor didn't wake up Saturday at noon and say, you know what, I want to go out and, I don't know, kidnap Nancy Guthrie. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do, or abductor. This was well planned, pre-planning. It doesn't always look it, I get it, walking around. That's why I don't think this guy ever did this before. He was a one-off because it was Nancy Guthrie, and that's what his real target was. But it was successful. And I said from day one, it was a successful abduction. You can criticize him staying there 40 minutes and, out front by the camera. But if it ever was meant to be a kidnapping, it was a failed kidnapping. And these follow-up letters, those first two, subsequent ones, to me, are all just jetsam and flotsam, people taking advantage of a situation. They can make a quick buck, fine, just throw something out there. They think they're relieving the family of some kind of guilt or personal, angst or whatever. I think that's the purpose behind them. But it's very likely the people sending these things had nothing to do with the actual abduction.
It's interesting. I get so many emails, especially when it comes to Nancy Guthrie. I mean, you probably do too. I mean, people are just so invested and fascinated by the case. But I got one from a podcast listener who said, as a bilingual person, English, Spanish, buried with nature sounds so weird in English. And the with sounds more like the way con is used in Spanish grammar. Is that, and this is Arizona, we're close to Mexico. Maybe they're onto something like that the person has Spanish as a first language or something like that.
Sure, and the use of the preposition. I even wrote it by mistake once, buried in nature. When I went back to the article, crossed out the in and put with. But what we have to be careful here is, and I go back to working the DC sniper case, and I was in the middle of that. I was dealing with Chief Moose every day on the task force. I was the profiler assigned. And the tarot card had on it only like 17, 19 words. And three of them were, call me God. And I saw that, and we wrote a 5-page report over that in the other language. It somehow leaked to the media. We don't know how, certainly wasn't me. But when it went to the media, the quote was, I am God. And I knew they were wrong. I wasn't going to correct anybody. I'm still in the Bureau. It wasn't my job. And they brought all these theologians in and these expert, people with expertise in religious studies, whatever. And they're commenting for a week. What does it mean when someone says, I am God? And it turns out he never did say that. He said, call me God, which actually came from the movie Navy SEALs, in which the sniper on the team, they nicknamed him God because he had the power of life and death, of course. So it was all.
Nah. So now we're getting places. All right. What are we at here? I think this is pretty much over with. Let me see here. Let me see how long longer this is. Oh, not much.
We found that out later. So I just want to be careful. And I don't disagree with that person, with as opposed to in nature. And there may be Spanish language influences. That's why, besides being a profiler, I'm a forensic linguist. I would love to see the actual language in these communications. And I'm hoping the task force brought some forensic linguist on board, not just with a degree, but with experience in working these types of cases. And I had that starting with Unabomb and many other cases since then. And it doesn't have to be me, it can be someone else out there, but this is, looking at the language is not necessarily for amateurs. There are nuanced features contained therein. That's how I help solve cases over the years, still do, in my consulting business. So I'm just hoping they take the language more serious and And
You know, I'm going to throw this out there. I know the world's eventually going to see this, and I got to start doing other videos on other apps so my story gets up. Because I know they're hacking my YouTube or hacking whatever. But what if? Oh, now I lost my train of thought. Poof! It just disappeared out of my head. Let me play this back and maybe it'll refix yourself.
linguist on board, not just with a degree, but with experience in working these types of cases. And I had that starting with Unabomber and many other cases since then. And doesn't have to be me; it can be someone else out there. But this is looking at the language is not necessarily for amateurs. There are nuanced features contained therein. That's how I help solve cases over the years, still do in my consulting business. So I'm just hoping they take the language more serious and maybe even consider publicizing it. Put it out there from beginning to end. They can keep something at the bottom, singular that no one else would know, only the actual author. Maybe someone will recognize the writing style. We certainly did with the Unabomber and some other cases.
Yeah, and just last thing, that's a really interesting point to end on. I've wondered, should they be publicizing more? I mean, we found out that this note said she was dead because it sort of leaked out, but like maybe they should be putting more of the contents of these notes out. And also, maybe it would have helped people to know that she might be dead officially.
At the 6-month point, and we're almost there, I think the task force have to get their collective administrative heads together and say, look, we've got nothing. And maybe they do. And if they do, that's fine. And study the course. But if they don't, they may want to consider putting some of this information out. But again, we may identify the author of these early communications, and that would be fine. And we just find out that it's bogus and they weren't even directly connected to the case at all. Just hangers on or wannabes and just injecting themselves in the investigation for kicks and giggles. But I would always say, yeah, I believe in transparency. You can leave one sentence out and just something that's only the investigators know. So for copycat purposes, but maybe the 6-month point, have a little release for all of our sakes, and we can make something more of it. It's tough though dealing with source information. You don't know exactly how accurate it is, and especially from a linguistic perspective, it's very important to have every word, the spelling, punctuation, spacing, semantics, and syntax layout. And that's what I would look for, and I have in the past, but I can't do much with this one.
Well, as always, I appreciate your time, sir. Thank you very much. I really appreciate James Fitzgerald for taking.
All right, so maybe the guy sent the letter in a different language, and they had an interpreter there or something. Maybe it's possible. But what do we know? Whoever this is still trying to grab the money. Now, don't forget, on this channel, we got a lot of suspects. Carlos, which we're still looking at, Carlos. We're looking at, there was a lot of people probably involved in this. There's a bunch of suspects that we have on this channel. So, and the only reason they're suspect is because of the eyes and the mouth and the nose and all that. So, there you go, folks. There's everything. I want to thank Debbie Fox and everyone stopping in, Paige Turner. Numerous people and everything that watch and subscribe and all that. And I'm learning to get better, improving myself, trying to trying to figure out YouTube, but I've been blackballed so long. People hate me and everything. So, it is pretty tough to get a YouTube channel where people believe you. So, we keep going and working the case. We'll keep moving on and working the case. I think this was all planned. Here's the thing. What if somebody had a grudge? What if somebody had a grudge against another race? Do you think it's possible that they would have done all this and tried to blame it on the cartel Hispanics, who obviously didn't need any badges, no stinking badges? Is it possible this was all made up just to get back at somebody, a Hispanic that might have done something to somebody? Maybe. Racial or whatever. Yeah, maybe. Very well possible. But we're going to end this. Now, folks, make sure you go over to Miss ATS News channel tonight. I do believe at 8 o'clock. 8 or 9 o'clock, one of the two. And make sure you go over there, hit the sub, hit the like, and enjoy the rest of your day. I think we have some rain today or tonight. It never came. We never got any major rain. It was supposed to rain today. I got up super early to go cut grass, thinking it was going to rain. It looked like it was going to rain, but we haven't had one drop yet. So I woke up early this morning, so I'll probably be going to bed earlier or taking a nap here soon. End up watching ATS News' channel and fall asleep because I'm tired. But I'm going to try and stay up. I got things I got to do around here. You know, if it ain't that, it's diarrhea. So I'll be back later. Maybe not. Who knows? Have a good night, folks.